I guess. Alright, there is the Game Heart overlay to look at. Ladies and gentlemen, let me turn all these sounds on and turn the Brood War music off because we're in game and ready to go. This is the Lone Star Clash 3. And I'm Rifkin. Sit tight, sit back. We got a good TVP on our hands, spawning here in the top left corner of the map from Axiom Esports. Ladies and gentlemen, the Red Terran player Hart. Ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. His opponent in the lower right, makers of Small Talk, recently having joined the Team Prime. It's my honor to introduce the Blue Protoss player State. Or maybe a province, because I'm Canadian. Actually, what's really nice here is Hart is... he's had some really good TVP, I have to say. If you've seen some of the Acer Team Story Cup or some of the online leagues he's been playing in, Hart has actually been cleaning up the TVP scene. We've been watching his teammate Ryung, unfortunately, kind of fall to players like Stardust in the Acer Team Story Cup. Then Hart comes in and cleans him up right after. So I haven't seen State play in a long time. He joined Prime, he was en route, he went to Korea, all these wonderful things happened, but he kind of fell out of the North American eyes. He did get really hyped up when he joined course, and he's always been a really good player. Some of my favorite matches in the past, of course, were him versus Scarlet, but that's neither here nor there, as this is a TVP. So we'll see how he goes here against Hart. Now, right now, this matchup has been in a lot of disarray, I gotta say. There's the power of Protoss, Terran being OP, whatever your point of view is. In my honest opinion, played at the highest level with two players who are well matched for one another, this can be one of the single most entertaining matchups in StarCraft 2. Now, we've actually seen a lot of this evolve over Heart of the Swarm. If you guys remember, there was a long time where the Oracle opener was quickly followed up with Charge and some Storms. That's kind of fallen out of fashion. We're starting to see more one gas, one gateway expands coming out of Protoss players, and even in some instances, delaying Mothership cores entirely. But nowadays, we're often seeing a lot of those faster Colossus in expectation of dealing with Bio. Hart, someone who can very well play Bio. With this SCV, scurrying on across the map. Unfortunately, will not scout State right away. But I like the positioning of State's buildings right off the bat here. There is a Reaper coming out of Heart, and oftentimes we see the Reaper kind of dance around and behind the mineral lines. When this gets across the map, it'll get some good scouting information. Cancels out for the faster Nexus. Whoop! But with the pylon over here, this actually blocks it out. So when the Reaper comes in, he's going to try and wrap around the mineral line and get caught with a couple of probes or on top of the pylon. It happens too often, and all it takes is a little bit of building planning out of a Protoss player to help shut these down a little bit quicker. Now, if that Reaper was already across the map and already in the base, that would be fine, because the Mothership core did pop out. State did not delay this, but still with no second gas just yet. Oh, speak of the devil, does start throwing it down. I was going to talk about how he's delaying his Stargate potential. His Robo will be a little bit later and what have you, but second pylon comes down behind the mineral line, and he's kind of locked this Reaper out from doing too much. The Reaper in this matchup is really critical. The follow-up SCV can be very important as well. But we'll talk about more about scouting in a second, because Hart's actually going for that second Rax. A third Rax even coming down very quickly here. And, initially you want to get a lot of bio on the field. You can do one of two things greatly with it. One is you have enough Marines at home to stop, for example, Oracles coming into your base. You need 6 Marines, no less. The other part is you can push early. You could try, even without Marauders, even without Concussive Shells, baiting out an Overcharge at the very least, and then dropping the main after. These are classic tactics we've seen time and time again. But for Hart to have pulled off of Gas the way he did, he's back on it now, but he only had one worker on Gas, was a little bit troublesome, because that means his stim's going to be delayed. His +1 will be delayed. He won't be able to afford Concussive Shells and Marauders type thing. But that Reaper got pretty hardcore tonight, actually, just to take a quick look at his vision. Did not get to the main, so doesn't know the tech path of State at the moment. This isn't, in and of itself right now, a bad thing, but to reference another really great Terran player, Joxy, for example, because I can be honest, I probably cast Joxy more than most people, just through weird coincidence. He does such relentless scouting, where he'll take the SCV in, scouts nothing, comes in with the Reaper, scouts nothing, hides the SCV at the third, brings the SCV and the Reaper back to guarantee a full scout off. And one of the big things to notice would be something like this, the Twilight Council. Now, blink all-ins off of 2 bases are pretty difficult to deal with. There's been instances where I think a lot of people have been kind of, we'll call it frustrated with blink all-ins. Some Terran players can deal with it very well and some can't. What Hart's worried about at the moment, though, I think, is the threat of an Oracle. One of the biggest things is these Marines, they're positioned in the mineral line 6 at a time, waiting and waiting and waiting. Once he realizes there is no Oracle, He may try and move across the map, but if he does, he's not going to get a lot done. And if he gets caught out too early, Blink Stalkers will wreck him back at home. Now, one of the things that you can do as a Terran player in this instance, still playing blind, mind you, he has no idea this is going to be Blink. If you see about 3 or 4 Stalkers this early, there's no reason to have these out unless you are going for Blink. So for Hart, he doesn't necessarily have to see the Twilight Council to confirm this, but he does need to see that there is more than one Stalker available. As he sees these extra 2, that may have just given away what State's up to. Now, we'll see if bunkers come down pretty quickly. I would certainly hope they do, because the thing is, his stim, well, it's actually going to time out decently for this. It's his medevacs that are going to be so late to the party. If this Robo actually has the Colossus, the Robo Bay followed up really quickly, then this won't actually be a Blink all-in, but more so as, I guess, the Vanguard for the Colossus. You know, you get those Blink Stalkers to dance around the Vikings, pick them off, jump to the side, but with pylons coming down on this side of the map, I can't help but feel he's gearing up towards an attack. However, Hart will catch him in the middle of the map. Awkward is as awkward does. 3 Stalkers going to be running away. No concussive shells for Hart right now, which means he can't really fight these and he can't really catch them. But if he forces them back to a corner, if, say, he gets stuck in the middle line, he's going to tear them to shreds. An Immortal's coming up very quickly, and I think for State, he may have been looking to dial on the aggression, but suddenly now has to play very defensive. There's a couple force fields out, and there is 2 overcharges available. No medevacs currently with Hart's army. And because there's no medevacs with the army, that stim actually really hurts him. He will get the Stalker for it, but it's not worth stimming your entire army for a Stalker, I can tell you that much. But medevacs are starting to be made right now. Reaper did get to the middle line and saw, okay, you know what, he started making the Immortal, he started investing in sentries. This isn't going to be the Blink all-in. I don't need to put 7 bunkers down at home in order to hold against this. But instead, Charge is being researched right now, which is always going to be fantastic. There is that time in TVP where you'll find a Protoss player has 20, 30 plus Zealots, and as a Terran player with no Ghosts, you can't help but go, what do I do against this? So Charge will allow him to connect to the Bioforce quite nicely. 3rd CC coming up for Hart, a little bit, I wouldn't call it late, but later than you would have expected to see, in favor of getting more production down, and rightfully so, because, again, he didn't quite know what his opponent was doing. Looks like he did stim again, by the way. This is a little bit rough, because when these medevacs come, they're going to heal, and they'll be dry, which means they won't be available for the fight. Gonna try and use the Watchtower to his advantage, I guess? Yeah, if he had concussive shells, he could pursue this, but he doesn't is the problem. So 2 medevacs gonna try and heal a very heavily stimmed army. Combat Shields actually kicks in there really nicely. I thought for a second, like, whoa, did they just, like, mass heal? What just happened? And it's like, oh, right, Combat Shields plus 10 HP. That makes a little more sense. Something that actually, you know, isn't crazy. Leaves 1 Marine down here. One really important thing for Hart, and he does this a lot too, is he'll segment out Marines to scout. So many times you'll see some of the best players accidentally bring their entire army up the ramp. But what he's looking to do is make sure that he doesn't get caught off guard. No force fields will cut these down. And he won't be too screwed early on. Now, I kind of referenced this at the start of the cast as like what people used to do, but we see State actually transitioning into it, which is a bit odd. But he is chronoing at the armor upgrades. He wants to get these up as soon as possible so he can pair them with the Storms that he's soon to have. If you can't have Colossus, Storms will certainly make do. Feedbacks are great for shutting down medevacs, and for Hart, he hasn't exactly started making Vikings yet. Oftentimes, if you see that earlier Colossus, you go for 4 medevacs and you stop right there. No more. You gotta get the Vikings out. But not having seen any sign of this, especially with the Marines poking forward to scout, you kind of have to assume it's going to be Ghost, or sorry, Templar, which is why we have the Ghost Academy started here immediately. He's getting ready for those EMPs. And ever since they changed that patch, like what, I want to say like 2 months ago, something like that, the Mobius reactor now automatically built into the Ghost, you can EMP right off the bat. So it's a little bit easier to deal with Templar than it once was. But a warp prism full of zealots unloaded into the mineral line, into possibly the production line, could be very deadly if he catches the army out of the base. But I think that'll be one of those easier said than done moments. This bunker is a bit odd. Oftentimes you'll see it more tucked into the mineral line with 2 or 3 depots, kind of walling it off against zealots. But does Hart see this? Not initially. Now, he does have a lot of forces at home, so this isn't going to be the super get-wrecked damage you typically see. State's going to be a little bit sad to see Marauders and Marines are quick to respond to this. However, they can't quite chase down this Warp Prism. And because he did not invest... Oh, actually, hang on. Wasn't there Marines over here? There are Marines over here. But because he didn't invest in a Viking for a Colossus, he's got no way to really chase this down. So this is just going to be a constant annoyance. Marines are actually going to get on top of this, almost take down that Warp Prism. Of course, tunnel visioning here a little bit is going to chase with those medevacs. It doesn't have a lot of HP, but it's got enough. Widowmines could burrow and maybe pick this off, but I don't think Hart's thinking about that. Although, they're not quite high enough. But of course, Hart for this point, he can't spend too much time focusing on this. We look at his vision on the map. If he gets the Warp Prism, fantastic, but he has no idea that the third's coming down out of this for Prime. Or for State, rather, as I glance at the name there at the bottom. But the Ghosts are coming out, the Vikings as well to be safe. They will pick off that Warp Prism, and in the odd chance that there's a Colossus transition, which is sure to follow eventually, but not anytime soon. All that gas is going to go to Templar. Whether they turn into Archons or whether they throw down Storms, it's a lot for a Terran army to deal with. Now for Ghosts, there's a really difficult decision that's going to come up. You can either try and snipe the Templar, which is always good. You kill the Templar, it's just as good as getting an EMP. But if you EMP the Templar, then they just morph into the Archons, and all of a sudden you need 2 more EMPs all over again. So it's not always the best decision to EMP, but it's the easiest one, that's for sure. And let's not forget, it'll strip all those hardened shields off the Immortals. Fun fact, by the way, because I still can't get over this, sentries that hallucinate Immortals, the hallucinated Immortals get the hardened shield effect. Like, what's up with that? Of course, they take 20 damage instead of 10 as the minimum because they take double being hallucinations, but still, it's kind of like, come on, really? But this is a really big army out of Hart, and I gotta be honest, guys, as long as he doesn't move into Storms, he should be good. If he splits his army prior to an engagement, oh, these Vikings are actually gonna be picked off by those Stalkers, a little unfortunate. Stimming forward here, we'll be able to catch a couple of them, maybe? He does have concussive shells at this point. Upgrades are looking great for both players, by the way. Of course, for Hart, it's really important he gets those level 3 weapons out. For State, you would have liked to have seen level 3 armor, of course, if you're going to go more Zealot heavy, but he hasn't gone Zealot heavy. This is a lot of Immortals and a lot of Storms. There are enough Stalkers here that they could pick off these medevacs if they decide to dive, but typically that's not what you want to do, of course. The overcharge is popped, and these Widowmines going to burrow in a really nice line. The anticipation here, oh, the lag, the delay. The anticipation of this, of course, is that the Zealots will charge in, he'll back up over top of the Widowmines. And for those who don't know, not too long ago, Widowmines got a nice little buff to damage versus shields, so they can destroy Zealot lines very quickly. Who needs an EMP if about 5 Widowmines go off? But, ooh, for State, taking a bit of lag here. Make sure Rifkin's not the culprit. Was Control-F? No, I'm good. Thumbs up, guys. Hopefully get this sorted. This is really important that he does get this sorted, guys, because if he's lagging and trying to land Storms, if he's lagging and trying to put out force fields, he's not going to catch any of Hart's army. And if we're going to be quite honest right now, Hart's army, granted, mostly Marines, can die to Storms, but has an overwhelming amount of them. So it's really important for both players to get the perfect engagement here. Now it's worth noting the Robo Base coming up soon, but we're not going to see Colossus in play anytime in the near future, because of course you never want to pull them in without that extended thermal lance. But tentative to engage with Ghosts on the front lines. They're looking for the EMPs, they're looking for the snipes. The feedback goes down, but a big time warp catches the Terran army. However, with these Templar being dry, there's only about 2 Storms in this. Priest spreads his Marines and stims forward. Templar are trying to dive into this, but more EMP is coming down. A Storm goes off on the left. He backs up. State is trying to land some of these, but the Widowmines are so far away from this fight. Even without the Widowmines, though, we see the power of Bios stimming in, and there's just no way for him to hold. There's an Archon warping in, merging in, however you want to phrase it, but actually, you know what? The Immortals are dealing tons of damage to the Marauders, and the Marines are pretty much dissipated. So now going to have to back up over top of the Widowmines. If he had been able to use these a little bit sooner, maybe this would have been a much better engagement for Hart. But he still comes out ahead. He takes out so many critical units. Most of the Immortals fell. All of the sentries are dead, and now of course the Templar count is really low. So that was not a game-winning move, but it's one that moves him towards winning the game, as this is looking pretty good with that 91 army supply over the 26 of State. Now granted, all these medevacs are eating a lot of the supplies, so while it looks like he's got 92 like war damage ready units to go, he's only really got probably closer to 60. So if you consider that for a moment, it's 60 to 46, Storms, you know, but the medevacs, of course, you can't discount. They got a lot of healing potential. For Hart, of course, his best case scenario would be to try and get off some sort of drop while this is going on, but his army's just a little too small, a little too shy of being able to do that. For State, it's really important he keeps fighting here. He can't yield this third. Storms are going to come down. He doesn't have any more EMPs, though backs on up over top of the Widowmines. And the Widowmines are about ready to go once again, but there's no Zealots for them to eat. Focuses fire down a couple of those Templar. Marines are going to die in that storm, but it was okay. The Archon finally merges in, but is it too late? Some Zealots stretching forward. Widowmines replanted here on the front lines. Gets some good hits off, but friendly fire takes down a couple of Marines and medevacs at the same time. But he picks off the last Templar, and the ragtag army State has isn't going to be enough. A Colossus pops out, but the one Colossus, no extended thermal lance, level 1 weapon upgrades is not that scary. Marauder's going to stim forward, pick off another Templar, get on top of the Colossus. It's going to go down, and State's hopes of winning this game go down with it. His army is just too darn low. This unfortunate Immortal dies on the front lines. Good game is called. Ladies and gentlemen, Hart will take game number 1 in this best of 3.